He's the prime cut passer from behind the meat counter. It's Fairway Frank. And introducing a 6'3 center who's a cut above the rest. Say hello to Audie Crooks.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Cyclone Fanatic pregame show. I'm your host, Leah Nelson. We have a special guest joining me in the Wild Rose Casino studio today. Connor Ferguson will be stepping in for Pop, so we're super excited to hang out with him today. But before we get started, let's thank a couple of our sponsors. Starting off with Channel Seed, they have been a huge supporter of the Cyclone Fanatic podcast network, as well as Iowa State women's and men's basketball program. So we're super excited to have them on board, and our friends over at Fairway Meat and Grocery. We love them. They've been a huge supporter of Iowa State and the Cyclone Fanatic podcast network as well. So we're excited to have them on board. So Connor, welcome to, the Cyclone Fanatic pregame show for women's basketball. We're super excited to have you.
It's great to be joining you. I gotta be honest, it's nerve-wracking filling in for Poppins. She's one of the greatest of all time.
She is a stud. I mean, not to dim your light, but we love Pop over here. She's incredible. She offers a really good perspective, but I think you'll offer a great perspective too, because you've been a huge Iowa State women's basketball, fan. You follow them along, you're always tweeting, so we're excited to have you on board.
Oh yeah, I remember she was on the Elite Eight team, right? Or was she? I think so. That era, obviously, was definitely huge in Iowa State women's basketball, and that was the heart of my childhood. So it's super cool being on pregame today, and can't wait to see what we got coming up at 4 o'clock.
I'm excited. And so, obviously, you've been following Iowa State women's basketball forever. So, from your experience, do you believe this very tough non-con schedule has prepared Iowa State for their first Big 12 game today against Oklahoma State?
Yeah, so I was thinking about how I would approach that. And it's not like Leah sent me the questions or anything, but that's the big question going into this game is how does the really tough non-con, almost by design, I know the South Carolina game kind of fell into their lap slate, but you play two top 5 teams. You play Iowa, you played that road environment with UNI, and it turns into a really meat grinder of a schedule. And obviously Iowa State lost 4 of those games. So the hope and the theory in sports playing teams above your level, theoretically in this, but the hope is you get better playing better opponents, better teams, and that will push you forward. Now, the negative is, are you too beat up to face another tough team today and a conference opponent? And I think that's where this game becomes really big is if Iowa State can get the win, you get a 9-day break, you can relax and put everything at ease. If you lose this game, you got 9 days to stew on a really disappointing first part of the season.
Right. And do you even enjoy the holidays after that? I'm playing. I bet they would enjoy their family time and whatnot, but I know it would be tough to kind of go home and sit and just think of what's to come after this. But how important is it for Iowa State, to win today? For confidence, for motivation, like you said, it would be tough to have all of those losses in the non-con and then to start Big 12 off with a loss. So how important is it for them to come out with a win?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to compare it to all the asinine football fans on my feed today from the college playoffs, but you have 6 days in between each game, and it makes each result that much bigger. This one, you have that big break, and if you start off on a bad foot, it kind of goes back to the old baseball thing, like in the first part of the season when you're a kid, and you're like, man, 7-6 looks a lot better than 6-7. In the same way, 10-4 looks a lot better than 9-5, especially when the other number is 1-0 or 0-1. So if you have 9 days to just sit there and stew on it, I mean, you go and try to hit the reset button again. But the hope, again, is that was this week for the Cyclones, and the last 4 days they could rectify what they could of this.
So who are a few key players from Oklahoma State that, Iowa State needs to pay attention to, that fans need to tune into?
So Micah Gray is a junior for them. She's leading the team, almost 17 points per game, I think. And she can shoot it. She can do just about anything. Averages 31.4 minutes in the court. But I did want to talk about Staley Hurd. So she's a sophomore guard. Didn't shoot the 3 a ton in the first few games of the season. She got some shots up, but not more than 3 or 4 in a game. The last 3 games, she went 0 of 4 the last time out. The other 2 games, she was 7 of 7 and 8 of 11 in blowout wins. So I'm wondering, she's shooting 51% on the season from the 3-point line. I'm wondering if they're going to roll her out and try to hit a couple threes, especially because Iowa State's had success against Oklahoma State shooting the 3 ball and has a team that can do that. And that's one of the keys I want them to get into today, is really shooting that 3 ball a lot more, because I think there's a lot of shooters on that team. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this game plays out, and especially with that result and what we just talked about.
Besides Iowa State, hitting the 3, focusing on that, what are a few other key takeaways that you hope that they accomplish this game?
I think Emily Ryan is a tremendous leader. She has nothing to prove. She has nothing, I'm not trying to downgrade her, but you want to talk about a great leader and you want to talk about a great captain. They make their marks felt in games like today, where you really need to win. You have to flip the script here. And you got to figure out just how to get to that win, how to get the W at the end of the game. And I think that's going to be a key part. I think the other part, with how the games have gone lately, how the big marquee matchups have been over the last few weeks, you got to get out to a good start. I mean, we saw UConn, and they can really shoot the ball, but you see like the 6th or 4th or 5th 3 that Shade hit, and you're like, man,
literally,
they really just aren't going to miss. Like, we're already done. This sucks. But yeah, I think that's getting out to that hot start, and you can say that about any game. I think it's really integral today, just with how the other games have gone, getting out to it and getting that momentum early.
I ask Pop this a lot too. We always talk about Audie and Addie and Emily, but are there anyone else, is there anyone else on the team that you really hope steps up today?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, it could really be anyone. I like seeing Sydney Harris shoot it. I think she's had a tremendous start to the season. It'd be unfair for me to say that that'd be her stepping up. I think she's been the most consistent 3-point shooter that team has had today. Is Ariana Jackson going to return to form again from the 3-point line? And we're really keying in on this, and it sounds like I'm doing the live and die by the 3 Fred Hoiberg Day Cyclones, but that was going into this year. Every guard on the team, every 1 through 4 player, position-wise, shot 38% or better last year from the 3-point line. Iowa State's got to utilize that. And I know the game has changed. I know you have Audie Crooks down at center, but you've got to be multidimensional on offense for this team to have the success that it had towards the end of last season, obviously taking Stanford to the brink. It looks almost night and day this year. So they've got to figure out those wrinkles and how to get back to that form. But it is there. We all saw it, and all of those great players from those teams, or from that team, are back here. So you've just got to figure out how to mix and match it and get back to your winning ways.
It's there. I feel like they just need one really good game where they get back in the groove. They're feeling themselves, but it is a little nerve-wracking because Oklahoma State is 9-0 on their home court. Do you think that adds any extra pressure, or do you think Iowa State's not even thinking about that? They're just hoping to come out with a win for Big 12.
Bill's kind of legendary for giving them numbers like that. I wouldn't be surprised if he threw him something with it. OSU didn't. This is the kind of the matchup where it's like, well, do you play a tough non-con or not? And it doesn't seem like many teams are really in the middle ever. It seems like they play the hardest in the country, or like a really soft one.
Yep.
But Oklahoma State really hasn't played that many big teams. Richmond they lost to, and there was one more on the schedule that I can't quite remember, but really not a ton of big tests for OSU this year. So Iowa State's supposed to be the big dog here. They got picked, and I hate going back to preseason polls because no one really knows. But Iowa State was picked 2nd. Oklahoma State was picked 11th. You're supposed to win this game. You need that reset. You got to go out and get the win today.
Mic drop. That's perfect. Love it. We're excited. We're going to tune in. But everyone else, thanks for listening. You guys can tune back in post-game. Connor will be joining me again to hear everything, to talk about the game and to discuss it. So we're super excited. Thanks again, Connor. You rock. Go Cyclones.